All right, so we're going to do a social media response video here. Um, I think it's fair to say the sentiment around the game has not been the greatest recently. Yeah, I'm going to say for good reason, but I also remind people that this is typically, I would consider it off-season. That's the term I'd use, is off-season for the game. So, we have people saying the game is going to die. We have people saying the game, isn't what it used to be. And I think there's definitely points you can criticize with it, which is fine. And I myself will criticize the game, of course. But definitely also some people that I think are taking things a little bit too far. But for this video, we're going to ask people here, what do you think is a good way to improve the game? I usually, when I do videos like this, I usually ask, what do you think are the biggest problems? But let's try to spin it a different way this time. What would you do to improve the game? That's what we're going to do here. So I also usually take a few minutes at the beginning of these videos to explain what I would do here. But for this one, let's just go right into the comments. I think another thing I'll do in this video is I'll just go through the first few comments at the top, and then I'll just kind of skim through randomly instead of going in order, because someone pointed out that always what happens is the first few responses are the same people every time. So we'll kind of mix up the order here. But for the first few responses, we'll just go in order. Jordan. Yeah, Jordan knows what real torture is. Yeah, sounds about right. Eliminate PvE and put more resources and time into PvP in different PvP modes. Create modes that could be 1v1s where each unit is juiced, 14-star ranked modes, etc. Replace PvE missions with PvP missions. The main allure of this game is PvP, and the only form of PvE that should exist is co-op raid, or PvE that should exist is co-op, raid, and ultra space-time rush. Everything else can be consolidated into shops that are brought via PvP rewards. Gives the devs less time on PvE and more time to PvP to test, create, and refine the units. I understand where this guy's coming from. Glow. Glow, definitely, I would say, from what I know, is definitely more of a PvP player. And I would say that most people probably watching my videos and who are engaged with my content are more often than not going to be PvP players. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the overall audience of the app, right, the Dragon Ball Legends app as a product, the majority of players don't even play PvP. I know it sounds stupid. I know it sounds unexpected probably to some people. But it's just true. Most people don't even play PvP. So I get where Glow is coming from here. I personally think that the main attraction of the game is PvP. And I would definitely want the team to be focusing on the area of the game that I feel like most captures the essence of what the game is trying to perpetuate, which is PvP. But that's just not what the numbers say. Most players don't play PvP. So if they just completely eliminated PvE from the game, that would undoubtedly hurt the app as a product massively. So I don't think that is that is possible. By the way, I will just say one of the words I used in this prompt here, reasonable. Comment below some reasonable ways. Again, I understand the argument here, and I think the thought process is not completely wrong with this, but I don't think this is a reasonable request. I don't think they would ever just completely remove PvE from the game. Again, I understand why he's saying this, because designating as many resources as possible to PvP I think makes sense, because that is reinforcing the strong point of the game. But you gotta have PvE in the game. You can't just only have PvP. It's just, even though for me I could see it, as a business model I don't think it works. All right, you couldn't. Oh, he doesn't have Twitter Blue. What? We gotta open this in a separate tab here. All right, I guess I could just click on this. Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure you can actually see this. Okay, yeah, we can. Perfect. Remove ultras and remove Zenkai benches isn't a thing they can do. Yeah. Once you do, once you release the beast, or once you open Pandora's box with these kinds of mechanics, you can't put everything back into the box. Right? That's kind of how this goes. If you guys remember, really, really long time viewers will remember this. When they first introduced the Ultra Rarity with the OG Namek Goku, the free-to-play one, It was me, it was Ryuden, it was Rhyme Style, it was D Free, like all the big Legends YouTubers at the time. We all kind of banded together and made videos discussing our concerns with the Ultras that we're releasing, the new rarity. And we knew it was going to be a mess, right? We just knew. So, you know, we tried to voice our concerns with it. We knew it was going to be a problem. You know, if I could go back in time and be more critical of him, I probably would, but I feel like I was pretty fair in terms of my outlook on Ultras being introduced as the highest rarity in the game. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say Ultras have had a terrible impact on the game, but definitely haven't been good. I think overall financially they've had a good impact on the game, right? From a developer standpoint, do the Ultras help the financials, the numbers of the game? Definitely. But looking at it through other lenses, the metrics in terms of just fun levels, win rates, balance issues, things like that, definitely wouldn't say they've had a fantastic impact. But you guys remember that? We did do that, right? We all kind of banded together and we're like, you know, it's a cool concept, but we're worried. We are worried. I'd say a major thing is how they're approaching this new philosophy. Higher rarity equals ability to ignore said philosophy more than the previous one. They got to get it together and actually have some semblance of balance. I'd even argue there was way more balance between rarities before this new philosophy. I would say it depends. I think there's definitely been times in the past where Ultras have just been straight up dominating the game. The one that comes to mind right away is 2023, the first half of 2023. Remember, we had Ultra Gogeta Blue, we had Ultra Hit, we had Ultra Rose, and we had Ultra Kid Buu. Those were the 4 best units, right? The only other character that kind of even was competing with those characters, we had Blue 17, who wasn't really a similarly designed unit. He was more of a support, kind of second or third best character on the team kind of character. Then we had the Tag 4s and the GT setup, and then we had Blue Beast Gohan, but those characters really didn't stand up to the Ultras. Hit, Gogeta Blue, Kid Buu, and Rose. So that first half of 2023, that era, actually does remind me a lot of the meta that we're in right now, where you have these Ultras that are just very dominant. The only little wrinkle you can put into that argument is the 7th anniversary Ultras, the Namek Ultras, are designed to be used together, which I think was a massive problem. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, right? I think double Ultras as a drop is a fine thing. I mean, when I say it's fine, I'm talking about meta-wise. I don't mean fine in terms of, you know, in terms of how accessible it is for free players, right? It's just, this double Ultras is never going to be accessible, no matter what. But in terms of a meta standpoint, double Ultras could have been a very good thing for the meta. All they had to do was not make them very good together. That's it. But they didn't do that, so... but yeah, that is another time that I can think of off the top of my head where Ultras just completely dominated the game. And then since then, yeah, I mean, again, I would say the second half of 2023, we had pretty good LFs that were, I don't want to say on the same level as Ultras, but they were, you know, at least competitive there. And then 2024, I mean, we definitely had some not very good LFs, but we also had some very good LFs. So we'll see if that's something that they want to return to this year. This year we've also had some very bad releases, but we've had some good ones. I think Kefla, and we're talking about post-Philosophy releases now, Kefla is good, and the Purple Super Saiyan 3 GT Goku is good. So we are really in kind of a hit-or-miss situation here with kind of like post-7th anniversary LFs. Well, post-7th anniversary / post-New Design Philosophy LFs, because, you know, Demon King Piccolo, Kid Goku, Cooler, you know, those are not very good. But then, you know, I'm not counting the anniversary characters because anniversary characters are given preferential treatment every time. But Metal Cooler, Kefla, Metal Cooler, Demon King Piccolo, Kid Goku. I mean, I guess you can throw Evolution Blue Vegeta in there, but again, anniversary character. And then I would say on the other end of the spectrum, you have Kefla and Purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So, yeah. There's good LFs and not very good LFs, but again, yeah, I would definitely agree with this that Ultras are just on a separate plateau altogether, for sure. All right, let's see if this actually takes me back. Okay, good. Remove the CC Exchange shop. You mean the shop they just added, the CC shop? I don't think they're going to remove that. I just think that they should handle specifically the supporter section differently. Expand on the new mechanics they've given us. So, yeah, this is a bad habit the game has, is they introduce new mechanics that are really cool, and then they just never give it to us again, right? Biggest example easily of this is Synchro Gauge, which, yeah, he mentions here. Synchro Gauge was introduced in the 6th anniversary, never seen again. Never, not even once. No clue what's happening with that. I think it probably just takes a lot of development time to implement, but games earning money, let's actually use the money. Another one that comes to mind is the preparation mode, right? We had the Boo Duo, and then we had the Gammas. The last time we saw that was the 5th anniversary. Crazy. So yeah, this game does have a bad habit of introducing new mechanics that I think have a lot of promise and then just never really bringing them back or trying them again. Giving us hard events, Challenge Rush from 1st anniversary. They did do this. I mean, it was in the 7th anniversary they did give us hard events, but again, this all goes back to the PvE problem where it's like, do people really want a challenging PvE event, or do they just want a PvE event that's easy to clear really quickly so that they can then get the rewards and then just jump back into PvP, right? That's kind of how I view this. Supporters are fine, but remove the restrictions. Yeah, I think the actual supporter function in the game is not a problem. It's just the way that, number one, the system was implemented, and then also, number two, the way that you actually like level up the characters is bad. Weekly raids that give us 500cc. They actually, yeah, so up until the anniversary and then through the end of the anniversary, we essentially had a raid up like 24/7, essentially. And for whatever reason, they've not maintained that post the anniversary. So, I don't know. I don't know. Stop purposely going out of their way, making prime units bad when it's their time for Zenkai. Yeah, this is a problem that I've been talking about for the past few weeks now. And this doesn't just pertain to Zenkais, but also to LFs as well. I think they did a good job with Purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku, so we'll see if they continue that trend moving forward. But LF Zenkais, yeah, I would say LF Zenkais need to be much better. They definitely do. More Zenkais. A big reason Dokkan does so well isn't more premium releases, but abundant Easy A's and Super Easy A's. Doesn't even need to be an LF, but no reason old units like this shouldn't be Zenkai already. Yeah, I'd be down for this. But another thing they have to do is just actually make the Zenkais good, right? We can't release Zenkais like Yellow Nova Shenron and then expect that that would actually have an impact on the game or do anything, right? What happens here is Yellow Nova Shenron releases as the only form of content for 1 week, and people just don't play the game for that week. It's what happens, right? It would make a difference if Nova Shenron was actually good or impactful in some way, but he's not. So I'd be down for this. They could just do double Zenkai weeks on these off weeks, but it really isn't going to change that much unless the characters are actually competitive or make some kind of impact on the game. You know, Zenkais at this point are essentially just glorified bench characters. Outside of that, I mean, it's, you know, unless you're an LF, like I would say, like Spirit Bomb Goku, the GD Spirit Bomb Goku, who's an LF Zenkai, has a pretty like good use case right now because he's actually a good counter to opponent GT teams. But in terms of his usability as an LF Zenkai character in a vacuum, it's actually not like that great. So they just need to make Zenkais better. If they make Zenkais better, giving us more Zenkais at the same time, that would impact the game a lot, I think, yeah. If they could find a way to make a really cool PvE game mode, that would be super awesome. I know the game is centered on PvP, but if they could find a way to make PvE game mode that is fun and replayable, I think it'd help the game. Yeah, the problem is I don't know how they would do this, right? This is actually an issue that I've been talking about for many, many years now. PvE is one of the biggest problems with this game because I just don't know a way in which they could make a fun PvE mode. I actually don't. I don't. I think they tried with the God Challenge. And I think what their mindset was behind the God Challenge was, let's create a mode that tries to replicate PvP as much as possible while still being a PvE event. And they tried that with the God Challenge. The problem with the God Challenge is they did a terrible job in emulating what it feels like to fight a God-ranked player. It does not feel that way at all. Does not. From somebody who's been God rank 88 times, it does not feel that way. It still feels like you're fighting a robot. And then the other thing is, there's really no incentive to play the mode because the reward structure is terrible. But here's what I would say about that too. If a mode is truly enjoyable and truly fun, you shouldn't need an enticing reward structure to play the mode. The reward structure for playing the mode should be because you enjoy the mode. That should be all you need to play the mode. Like, you play a game because it's fun. You don't play a game because you get rewarded for playing the game. I don't know how they could develop and release a PvE game mode that would entice people to play it without actually giving you a reward for playing it. That's why I don't even think... Is it even possible to create a fun PvE mode? I don't know. I don't know. Clearly, people enjoy PvE in this game because most people don't even play PvP. So there's got to be some way to do it, but I don't know how they do it. I don't. All right, we'll do this, and then we'll scroll down to some random comments. This is a long one. All right. Make Zenkais playable and usable. Yeah, this is a big one for sure. During big celebration, free-to-play units should be bare minimum top 15, 20 and usable. Yeah, I'm not really too sure what the problem is with this game in terms of making like good free characters. What is the problem? Like, okay, take the most recent free-to-play character with Rildo. Hyper... This game calls him Hyper Meta Rildo, because I know Squatra calls him Hyper Mega Rildo. Take Hyper Meta Rildo, the newest free-to-play character. If that guy was, like, legitimate top 10, like a legitimate top 10 contender, would that actually hurt the game? Definitely not, right? I mean, I don't see... What are they, scared people are not going to summon for characters if Hyper Meta Rildo is a top 10 character? They should do that. Like, actually make these free-to-play characters good. I don't see how that's, detrimental to the game. So that's, I agree with this, yeah. Do better with sagas. We should have had a unique equip for Blue Super Baby 2, another for Super Saiyan 4 Yellow Goku, and Red Kid Goku. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know... I don't want to criticize this GT campaign too harshly because I actually really do think they did a pretty damn good job with establishing this GT team, essentially going from nothing to top tier in the span of a month. So I don't really want to criticize this one too harshly, but if you're going for a proud team, that is where I don't think GT is very solid. Because the team essentially has 4 good characters. You have the Tag Force with their equip. You have Zenkai GT Spirit Bomb Goku. You have Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and the Purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and that's really it. Your other 2 characters, I mean, it's like Omega Shenron and it's like Free Rildo or Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, right? Essentially is what the Proud team is going to be. So I don't know if I'd run that in Proud. So instead of, kind of having these like 2 big glaring holes in the team, yeah, they could do something like a unique equip for Super Baby 2 or maybe even another Zenkai. Again, they could have done like a double Zenkai week instead of Nova Shenron. Instead of just Nova Shenron, they could have also Zenkai'd something like Maju or something like that, right? So there's more ways they could have filled out the Proud roster for GT for sure. If they want a Zenkai for specific sagas, it should be EX units. If they want Zenkais for specific sagas, it should be EX units. I mean, EX Zenkais just haven't really been a thing in a long time. I don't even know if I blame them for that. It's just... It probably just comes down to a priority. Like, would they rather spend development resources on EX Zenkais or, I don't know, a 1% sparking animation? Or a sparking Zenkai? Or, something else? I think a lot of times when it comes down to this game, it really just comes down to allocation of resources and how they manage that. Every banner should have at least 1 sparking along with the... yes, this I for sure agree with. 100%. And they've been doing that this year. This has been the only banner. This purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku banner has been the only one that has not had this. But that's because of the supporter system, which I am praying to God. I'm praying to God that they do not continue not having 1% sparkings on these banners that introduce supporters. That is not the way to do this. Support should be free. Yeah, in a perfect world, I agree, for sure. At the very least, I think it should be significantly cheaper, for the supporters. Defensive units should be the only ones to have endurance. Support units should be the only ones that destroy cards and reduce ki. These are essential for a proper team: 1 attacker, 1 support, and 1 for defense. I agree with this to an extent, but I don't know if I would say they should be the only ones to have these mechanics. I think there should be certain characters that have them, but I don't think it should be a thing where it's like every new release, we're expecting every character to have a second life mechanic. We're expecting every character to have card draw speed. Every character has buff removal. Every character has endurance nullification. That's kind of why they decided to create this new design philosophy in the first place. It's because every single character, and this is actually an argument that I've stated many times back in 2024, every character is the same character. Where every character kind of had 90% of the same kit, and then it really is just that like that 10% that differentiated each character from each other. That is what they're trying to avoid with this. So to an extent, I agree with this, but if they structured it this way, where only defense units have this, only support units have this, only attacking units have this, at that point, it doesn't really fix the problem, because then the problem just shifts to every single team being structured the same way anyway. So, I don't know if I would say it needs to be as clear-cut as this, but I think it should be leaning towards this slightly. Test units, yeah, this is a big one too. Test units before releasing. There are certainly a few characters that have released recently that I would say probably weren't tested at all, not even a little bit. So yeah, this is a big one. Remove the delay for the cover, or sorry, remove the delay for the overcharge attack, but once it successfully inflicts cover null. Yeah. This one, I mean, this isn't like a huge change, but I agree with this. And this is something that I've talked about too. If you land, by the way, the charge attack is essentially the kick that you do from overcharge. So once you're overcharging, you can swipe up and do the kick. To me, there's not really enough upside to really be using that too often. It really only is down to a certain few instances where I think it probably is acceptable to go for the charge attack. But even if you take a, like, whenever you go for this, you are taking a pretty big risk, because you miss this charge attack, and that is a guaranteed combo for your opponent. I think what they should do with this is, if you take a risk and you go for the charge attack and it lands, you should be able to follow up off of that without being at risk of being cover changed against, right? Because the biggest problem with this is, even if you land this, the opponent could just cover change into you, because you don't get cover null when you land this unless you already had cover null. So I like this change. This is exactly what I would do. I would structure it a little bit differently. I would say you inflict the opponent with one, you inflict the entire enemy team with 1 timer count. Doesn't really make that much of a difference, but you actually land the kick on the opponent, and then your opponents on standby each have 1 timer count to switch back in. So you can actually follow up off of the charge attack, instead of, you know, oh, I took a huge risk in using the charge attack and I landed it. Unfortunately, I can't even capitalize on it because I have no cover null. That's something that I would change to. All right, let's scroll down and mix it up a little bit. Let's go, because we have 6 billion comments on here. Let's go to, like, here. How about this one? Rework Ultra Space Time Rush. Yeah, I mean, for me, you know what this mode is? I zone in, I click auto, and that's it. That's the entire mode. Add more PvE game modes for casuals, not that God Rush. Yeah, the God Challenge is the dumb mode. I hate that. Make Zenkais good and frequent. Yeah. This is a big one. This is one of the biggest things they can do, because it changes the whole tone around the game during these off weeks. Like, imagine if Nova Shenron was, like, actually really good. If Nova Shenron was really good, it changes the entire perception of how a weekly update is. Fix Ultra Banners, add better lineups. I wish you would have expanded on this. Like, what do you mean by fix Ultra Banners? The way I would do it, the way I would change Ultra Banners, number one, I'd add older Ultras to the new Ultra Banners. So instead of, you know, kind of like re-releasing the 2021 Ultra Super Gogeta banner, take Super Gogeta and put them on a new Ultra Banner. It's crazy that people actually don't want that, but that's, you know, what are you going to do? Summon on the 2021 banner for him? Like, no, that's stupid. Another way they should fix Ultra Banners is they should add summon coins to the banners. Simple. Just add summon coins, add tickets. that should have been in the game 3 years ago. And then overall, just better lineups, yeah. Reduce mega power creep that comes with Ultra releases. I mean, this is not... Okay. This is not power creep. Like, when a new Ultra releases, and he's just like a... Like, when Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta released, I don't know if I would call that power creep. Because it's not like Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta is just inherently better in every possible way than Namek Goku or Full Power Freak. He's not. Like, the Namek Ultras are not straight up worse than Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. So it's not really power creep. It's just the Ultra power level in comparison to Legends Limited characters is probably just too high. Right? You can kind of frame it one of two ways, too. You could either say Ultras are too good, or you could say LFs are not good enough. Either one, I think, was fine. So in order to fix those problems, you got to either make Ultras not as good, or you got to make LFs better. I think the solution is make LFs better, instead of making Ultras worse. Because making characters worse is never fun. LF/Ultras become unusable when they return. That is just a problem with how long it takes for characters to return, which I think is an issue, yeah. More game originals. Yeah. That would just be fun to spice things up, right? Instead of getting the 5th UI Goku, the 6th Beast Gohan, the 7th Super Vegito, eventually, we're going to have to get different stuff. And I think this is a good way to do it, yeah. More unique mechanics on characters. Every Ultra should have a new mechanic, and every major celebration LF should have a new/semi-new mechanic. Semi-new meaning things like Synchro Gauge and Preparation Mode. Yeah, I think that's fair to ask. To be fair for Ultras, they usually do that. Cell didn't have one, because Cell had what I guess this person would call a semi-new mechanic with the Arts Action ability. Namek Goku has KO Guard. Full Power Frieza has... it is an active gauge which already existed, but it's a new type of active gauge, so I think I'd give him a pass. And then Vegeta has the Switch Attack. So Ultras typically do get this kind of treatment. For Legends Limited characters, yeah. I don't know if I would say every single one, though, because at some point it gets to a point where they're kind of forcing. Like, if they were to give every single Legends Limited character like some kind of crazy mechanic, eventually you'd get a character where it just feels forced. And this is actually something that we saw with unique gauges. Like, sometimes a character would release with a unique gauge, and we would just be like, why does this character have a unique gauge? So sometimes it kind of felt like they were just giving LF characters unique gauges because it felt like a more premium mechanic, and they wanted the character to feel more premium, even though the character didn't necessarily need to have one. So that's, I guess, something that we could be a little bit critical of here, but yeah, I'd like to see the return of Synchro Gauges. I'd like to see the return of Preparation Mode, so I'm down for this. Lessen the gap between Ultras and LS. Yeah, I agree with this for sure. I'd actually like to see some more units being offered on summonable banners. Yes, some units take time to make, but with the upgraded storage needed for the game, I would think that they would do something different with summons rather than the 2 new characters per banners. He's talking about like more than 2 new characters releasing at the same time. That happens very rarely. The one that comes to mind is actually last September, when we had Tree of Might Goku released with the entire Turles Crusher Core. That was 5 new Sparkings at the same time. But yeah, this typically is not common. I'd like it, but I don't know how realistic it's going to be now with supporters. We'll see. I want the game to stop feeling like a chore. I want it to be fun, to not have to rely on broken Ultra units to have a fighting chance in PvP. PvE needs a complete revamp. If Festival this year fails, is the game going to bleed even more? Can you share my thoughts on this? We'll see. I don't know if... I'm not going to sit here and tell you my expectations for Festival are like through the roof, but I feel like, Festival's probably going to be as good as it's been the past few years, is what I think I'd say. I don't like. I'm not looking at the game situation right now and being as doom and gloom as a lot of these other people are thinking. I don't think the game is in a particularly great position. That's not what I'm saying. And I think we should be criticizing things like the supporter system implementation was really bad. I think some of the content weeks this month have been bad, but when you look at every past September, not every single one, but the past few years, right? Even starting in 2023, 2 years ago, was the Dragon Ball Saga September celebration. Talk about a dead month. I actually think that month was worse than last year, which was worse than this year. Right, September. I think the two deadest months of the year are September and February. But if I had to give the edge to one, I think September is the most dead month of the year. Like, it is the most dead month of the year for this game. And eventually the game's gotta have a dead period. But that does not excuse the poor implementation of the supporter system, which I think definitely has a big impact on people's perception of how the game is, for sure. It's a mixture of a bunch of things, but it's them releasing the double ultras at the end of the anniversary, which for some reason they made them work really well together, so it kind of threw the whole game out of whack. And then some other things as well, but yeah, it's a mixture of some things, but like, you know, to be fair, September is supremely dead every year, right? I always bring this up, but last year we had the legendary week of Zenkai Red Tapion, and that's it, right? And just for context, you know, for whatever this means to most of you, I will just tell you that last year, September, for me, in terms of performance on YouTube, was worse than this year. Just pointing that out. Again, that doesn't really, you can't really extrapolate that to the overall health and well-being of how the game is doing, but I'm just pointing that out. I'm just saying. More interesting tags, or at least change existing ones. Saiyans is too OP, have like Dokkan with pure Saiyans. That's interesting, but I don't think they would do that because I think everything is entrenched too much in the tags that exist in the game already. Like, think about all the equipment that would have to change if they did this. PvE needs a major redo. Yeah, a lot of people bringing up PvE. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know how you can log into the game and only play PvE. Like, I just don't know. I don't understand. I couldn't do it. I love this game, and I couldn't do it. Make less frequent but meta-relevant free units that can actually run in PvE. Yes. I mean, to be fair, this is kind of like the same argument as making good Zenkai characters. If they make a good free character, that artificially adds a lot more content to the game because you're going to be using those free characters more often, and you're going to actually be fighting those free characters in PvP. So it adds more content to the game. Because what happens now is free characters release, you farm them up, you grind them up, and then that's it. Like, and sometimes people probably don't even farm them because there's no point. Like, why would you realistically farm a free character right now? Why would you do it? You're not using them. I don't know. Probably because you get CC from the missions, I guess, right? I don't even know if that's true. You probably don't even get CC from the missions. Respect the conditions of the April newsletter in a way where ultras are affected too. Yeah. Again, you can do this in one of two ways. Lower the power level of ultras or increase the power level of LFs. I think they just increase the power level of LFs. But you can do that. You can increase the power level of LFs without breaking their philosophy. Right? You can have units like Kefla, but I would even say make them a little bit better than Kefla even. And I think Kefla is very good. Make the characters very, very specialized in their roles, but have them be really good in their roles. But don't have them do everything, right? Because that's kind of what that's kind of the way that ultras are kind of set up right now, is ultras are very good in their roles, but they're also very good at everything else. That's not what we want, right? All right, we could do a few more. Make Zenkai's good and drastically improve LF quality because units like both Dragon Ball Metal Cooler and Super Saiyan 3 Goku are heavily undertuned. I definitely would not loop Super Saiyan 3 Goku in the discussion with the Dragon Ball LFs and Metal Cooler. Definitely not. I think Super Saiyan 3 Goku, like if you just looked at him in a vacuum in terms of what he himself is doing, I wouldn't really say he's particularly like crazy. But the reason why Super Saiyan 3 Goku, I would rate him so highly right now is because of how much value he brings to the GT team overall. How much value he specifically brings to Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta next to the Super Saiyan 3 Goku is the best character in the game. That's the value that this Goku is bringing. And I think that's, for an LF character, I think that's fine. His role is very obvious. He does it pretty well. And I am okay with that. Issue right now is lack of meta diversity. I think it's getting a little bit. I'm not. People really didn't like my my comment when I said I thought the meta is decent. Me saying the meta is decent is not me saying the meta is good. Decent is not good. Okay. The meta is better than it was 2 weeks ago. It just is. You can't argue it, right? Because the meta 2 weeks ago was simply just Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta next to the two Ultras. And it's still a team now, obviously. You're still going to run into the triple Ultra setup. But at this point now, you have GT with the Spirit Bomb Goku, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and Vegeta, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who's a top tier team. You have pure Frieza Saga with Krillin and the two Namek Ultras. Yeah, and you have the triple Ultra team. So like you actually have, some teams that are competitive here. It's not just one team, which is what we had for a long time. So the meta's getting better. Again, it's not good yet. It's decent. I think one more campaign like we saw with the GT one, where we have another tag essentially rise from the ashes from nothing and be competitive with GT, be competitive with the Frieza Saga team, be competitive with the Triple Ultra setup. All of a sudden, we're in like a pretty good meta. We really are. Because we're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6... No, we would have 4, 5, or 6 teams that would actually be good. So, I would consider that to be a pretty good meta. Also, we need more specific Ultra counters like we did with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Yeah, I agree with this. I like to call it the 2-month rule. Whenever we have a character that is dominating the game, I think it is fine to kind of let them run wild for about 2 months. And then after those 2 months have expired, then we get a counter in the game to kind of corral them away. And at least have a check in the game for them. For Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, that character was Tree of Might Goku. I don't think Tree of Might Goku completely shut down Gogeta. But he existed as a way to at least, kind of deter him from just completely dominating the game. Which is, I think, a good way to do it. With Ultra Vegito Blue, we had Namek Goku. That blue Namek Goku did that. And with the 7th anniversary Ultras, what is there? For Namek Goku, is it supposed to be Zenkai Cooler? For Frieza, is it supposed to be Super Saiyan 3 Goku? Is it supposed to be Metal Cooler? It doesn't feel like it. Both the Namek Ultras shouldn't be top 3 still. I don't agree with that. I think it's fine if they're top 3, but they shouldn't be top 3, and then there shouldn't be a gap between them and the rest of the game. That's where it's kind of, decrease the stats you get from Zenkai boost to make characters not have to rely on them so much. He's talking about the Zenkai abilities for the bench. To me, the biggest mistake they've ever made in this game are Zenkai abilities. And I don't have confirmation on this, but I think the entire reason Proud exists, Proud PvP exists, is to introduce an alternative to where you can build a team that is not reliant on Zenkai abilities. I think that's what Proud is for. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a way you can kind of retroactively change this, but it is such a that is such a big mistake they made. I cannot believe they legitimately thought that giving 40% base stats across the board from essentially a glorified Z ability, while also still providing Z abilities from the same character, was a good idea. It's actually just insanity. All right, last one, and then I think we'll wrap up here. I mean, this one isn't very detailed. More CC, more content. Yeah, I mean, this isn't really... Okay, we'll do one more. Reworking characters that have bad releases would help there be more balance in the game. Yeah, this is something that I don't understand why they don't do. So, for example, Metal Cooler comes out, and they realize 2 days after he's dropped, I don't have face cam on, but I'm like slapping my forehead. Oh no, Metal Cooler is not as good as we wanted him to be. What do we do about this? Nothing. That's basically how the game is right now, right? They just do nothing. I don't think they necessarily need to do the Goku and Frieza approach for every single character that this happens to. But there's other ways they can buff these characters, right? They could do, emergency unique. Here's the thing. I hate the idea of them, like, dropping bad characters and then fixing the problem by trying to entice us to, like, farm up and re-roll for equipment, because it kind of feels like they're punishing the players. Because now we have to spend resources trying to get these equips, to get good rolls in these equips. And it just kind of feels like, okay, you guys, first of all, you guys messed up in not making the character good enough. So the onus is kind of on you to do something about this, not us. So that, I kind of have an issue with that. But they could do equips for characters. We've never seen it before, but technically they could do emergency Zenkai awakenings. I think it's a terrible idea, because then the character wouldn't get a Zenkai later. Yeah, I guess thinking about it now, I guess the best way to do it would just be to do the Goku and Frieza style buff for the characters, right? So Demon King Piccolo should have gotten that. Demon King Piccolo should have gotten that. Super Vegeta should have gotten that. Metal Cooler should have gotten that. I mean, I'm talking about like the worst of the worst releases. Things like Broly, like Red Broly last year, I didn't like, but I don't think he needed a rework. Kid Goku wasn't good enough, but I don't think he needed a rework. Who else? Like Fusion Zamasu at the beginning of this year, I didn't really like either, but he definitely wasn't bad enough to warrant a rework or like kind of like a buff, like a Goku and Frieza style buff. But I do think they should do this. I do think so. I don't understand why they would take a hard stance against this if it genuinely helps the game, which I think it would. Increase CC distribution. I mean, I'm not going to say no to this. I would love this, even though, people definitely need the free CC more than me. Why would I be upset about other people getting more CC? I wouldn't. I think it'd be good. I do. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about this. Sure. Add more entertaining PV. Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised that so many people are bringing this up, because this is a big thing. Yeah, too many times throughout the year it just feels dry. PvE is just, PvE is just not very fun. 3 times should now be the standard for LL banners. Again, this kind of goes hand in hand with the increase the CC distribution. I'm not saying no to that. There's no way I would say no to this. But is it realistic? No, it's not. It's just not realistic. I mean, again, at the beginning of the post, reasonable ways. I'm for it, but I would probably say it's not reasonable. I saw, as I was scrolling through this, I saw somebody say remove the CC cap. I'm actually kind of surprised we didn't see as many people talking about that as I would have thought. I don't. If they were ever going to change the CC cap, but when people say CC cap, they mean the exchange shop limit of if you're over 20,000 CC, you can't exchange for CC from the exchange shops. If they were going to do that, they wouldn't straight up remove the cap. They would just increase the cap. I think what would probably happen is they would increase it to 30,000 instead of 20,000. Like, it would be pretty disappointing, I think, if they actually did change it, because I don't think they would change it by much. It's there for a reason, right? It's not just, it doesn't just exist for no reason. I think they'd probably change it to 30,000. If we're being very generous, maybe 40. I could not see anything more than that. But that's what probably I would push for, is changing the CC cap to 40. But I think it probably would go to 30. So that's a reasonable change I could see happening. But that's going to be it for this one. It's been a week and a half or something since I've done a discussion video here, so I just wanted to get another one in here. If you guys in the comments want to let me know what you would do, what kind of changes or improvements you would make to the game, let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one.